All right. We are Eric, can you see that we're on? That we're
Oh,
live?
now I can. Yeah. See the viewer thingy. That's my
Ah,
cue.
there you go.
Welcome, everybody, to Do That But Better. I'm Eric.
I'm Zach. And there we go.
Oh, I
Dude,
gotta point
there.
that way, I guess.
And look at that. Now we even got
Oh,
it.
see, that's why there weren't the words to tell me.
Right. So, Eric, how you been? We've been gone for a bit. We had some technical difficulties.
Yep. We're good. We're getting into fall. Kids are
Yeah.
picking leaves, all that stuff. Harvesting honey.
Oh, awesome.
Oh man, that is awesome.
Yeah. Like, now, where from?
Some hives that someone gave our church. It was a member who moved.
Really?
They had hives, and they donated the hives and all the equipment. So now I'm a beekeeper.
That's awesome. I also heard that you were a donkey racer.
That is also true.
So
Yeah.
what happened with that?
Uh, it's an interesting sport because it really comes down to how fast your donkey wants to run.
That's
And
hilarious.
yeah, some want to run faster than others.
How'd you do?
I got 18th out of 50. It was
Okay.
a 10K, so it was like which yeah,
Wait, you
it
did a
ended up
10K with a donkey?
yeah.
Holy cow. Now, so were you riding it?
No, you're running next to it.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So
crazy.
you're like trying to get it to run. Some people so this race was the last one in a summer long series of 10
Hmm.
races.
Okay.
So some of the people are like competing in the whole series. And then some people like myself have never tried to coax a donkey to do anything.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Even the people who were super experienced, they're like, "Yep." Like there were people right behind me who do it all the time,
Yeah.
and their donkey just stop. And I'm like, yeah, okay, come on,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and they just
That's
kind of look
hilarious.
at you. Okay, well,
When I was in high school, we had a I don't even know what you call it, almost like, yeah, almost like a pep rally or whatever you those things that you do, and
yeah,
it was donkey basketball,
I
and it
remember.
was sort of like that. It was pretty awesome.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
that was a fun one. It was.
but
I know.
I'm
Earlier in the summer, I talked about orienteering, and I
yeah.
feel like it's the same concept of like making running not as boring. When you're not thinking
Yeah.
about running anymore, you're thinking about this other thing.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm
it was
sure
fun.
that because of your fitness, a 10K with a donkey, not too bad.
Oh yeah,
Because
it
you
was super.
was that
Sheba's pace was well below mine. So,
maybe Shiva
but
has to do with some more functional movements.
well, so they do. Most of the races are in the mountains
Okay,
at like 9, 10,000 feet on trails, up and
yeah.
down passes and stuff.
Hmm.
This one they had to go under a tunnel. That's what really spooked her.
What a baby.
She didn't like that. But yeah, fun thing to try. Highly
Yeah.
suggest.
Well, yeah. Well, so speaking of donkeys doing functional movements at high intensity, uh, so the other day we talked about the nine foundational movements and why we do them, and you know, I think that one thing in CrossFit that gets a bad name is scaling. And so even if you go, hey, I can't deadlift, right? I hear that all the time. Or I can't do a pull up, or I can't do, like, name your thing here. And one of the best things about CrossFit is that everything is infinitely scalable. That's one of the things that Greg Glassman always talked about, is that CrossFit is for everybody. Everyone can do it, but it's infinitely scalable. But
Hmm.
often people are like, well, I can't do it RX. So, the term for, like, as prescribed, right? The workouts are written, and especially when you're in a group, everyone shouldn't be doing the same workout, right?
Right.
Or they shouldn't be doing it the same way. right? They should
Yeah.
be doing the same workout because we need these functional movements. And these are the things that are really going to progress us. But how do we make it so that everyone can safely and efficiently and effectively uh, do the same workout?
Right.
And one of the best ways to do that is through scaling. And I don't know about you, but in the days of doing CrossFit.com, especially like you just get into it, and when there wasn't a bunch of CrossFit gyms everywhere, and so you're like, all right, go to CrossFit.com, see what they posted last night, and let's do it. And it always said scale appropriately, and you go, nope. You're like,
uh,
I'm just gonna do it. And you take something like Fran, which is supposed to be like less than 7 minutes, and it's like, all right, took me 25 minutes, but I did it. And you're like, I did it RX. And you think that you got a great workout, but you definitely didn't get the workout that was intended.
right.
So you got work, you did work, but not as prescribed, even though
Yeah.
you did the weights or the movements, right? And so I think it's really important to know a little bit more about scaling and the benefits of it.
Totally. It's funny because you said scaling gets a bad rap. And I feel like it gets a bad name or it has a negative connotation with people in CrossFit. They're
Hmm.
like, ooh, I had to scale.
Yeah,
And I think that if people outside of CrossFit knew more about how much scaling takes place,
yeah.
that they would there would be less haters of CrossFit.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah,
It's like I think the general public needs to know, yeah, everything gets scaled back to or scaled up or back to your level. And people in CrossFit need to recognize that that's a good thing.
I think that's one big misconception is that scaling means that you're going down, like that
Yeah.
you're doing less, and uh, and really, it's often going to make you do more, right? But also, if you scale something, or let's say that you're doing a 1 mile run and you put on a weight vest, you scaled, right?
Hmm.
You adjusted it, whether it's to your ability or if it's uh, to your ability, or just you changed the stimulus. Let's just say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And really,
Yeah. I feel like the idea of scaling is like best, worst. And like you're trying to do this one. But really, I don't know, thinking of it as maybe if we called it a spectrum. You're somewhere on the spectrum of ability.
you're
And
spectrumizing, not
yeah,
scaling.
exactly. Right. Or like we've said before, like customizing or personalizing.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, so if you just think about most workouts, like so if we went and said, hey, I want you to do 5 sets of bench press, 5 sets of five, as heavy as possible, right? Everyone's going to have different weights there, you know,
Yeah.
and and that is scaling, right? That was the appropriate workout. You got the stimulus of what it was, right? Or let's just do a 5 rep max. Actually, I think that's a little bit easier to think of, right? Now let's take it into cardio, right? And let's say I want you. So instead of saying I want you to do um, a 1 mile run, now we can change that and go. I want you to run for 8 minutes as
Yeah.
far as possible. And when you start changing that, and you start seeing, hey, what was my capabilities? Now we can start seeing, hey, what does this feel like? And in CrossFit, you'll have the workout, but there's an intention with the program, and intention with each workout. And the 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 main idea is getting the most amount of work done in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah.
And and when um, when we're testing, right? Or even just like when you're tracking. I would rather say tracking because I think testing is a little bit different. But when you're
Hmm.
tracking what kind of work you're able to do, um, in a training program, you might want somebody to get, like, let's say that it's an AMRAP, as many rounds and reps as possible in 10 minutes. And you might get let's take deadlifts and push-ups, right? It's 10 minutes, and I want you to do something that you can do 10 reps unbroken, right? And then pull-ups, I want you to be able to do 5 unbroken, and I want you to be able to do around a minute,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so now we're going to adjust this workout, the weights and things like that, to challenge each person, right? And so now changing how we're doing the pull-ups, how we're doing the deadlifts is going to be super beneficial. Uh, and but when it comes to scaling, I think that immediately people go straight to weight, right?
Yep.
But when we scale, we want to think of a few things, like what are the reps, what is the weight, and then the movement, right? So these are 3 ways that we can scale a workout, and we might be scaling these for different reasons. You know, maybe you have an injury, right?
Right.
Maybe you're pregnant. Maybe, like, name your thing here, and
Well, or maybe you're just inexperienced.
yeah.
Maybe you're warming up, and I'm like, you know what? You're pulling early. You're swinging your bar out in front. Instead of pulling from the floor, we're gonna do hang cleans.
Hmm.
Okay, like hang power cleans instead of from the floor, so that we can practice keeping your arms straight and the hip explosion at the top,
Right.
right? So like it can be that technique side as well of like you're learning this. We're doing this to learn and not only for, to fatigue your muscles.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, like, so what I take from that is we're reducing complexity. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because some of the movements that we do, just in general, with functional movements, they're simple, but they are complex. And so it's, let's learn these pieces, and
Yep.
then we can start putting the pieces together. And getting that practice is really what's gonna allow you to keep moving forward in your work, right? And in CrossFit, our main goal is to do more work, right? And so when we're talking about work, we're talking about force times distance divided by time. So this is scientific, and right, and like so lots of times we just think of work as like, oh, were they sweating, were they gritting their teeth, did they fall on the ground, right? And we can do that a number of ways, but it's just like if you went into a gym and you're like, I was in there for 2 hours. It's like, oh yeah, what'd you do?
Mm-hmm.
And so now we let's take this formula and go, all right, how much work did I do? So let's say that I picked up 100 pounds, right? And I give you 1 minute to lift it as many times as you can. All right. So we're moving it, let's say 2 feet. And let's say that you did 20 reps. Okay. Now you're looking at about 4,000 foot-pounds of work. All right. So about 4,000, um, 4,000 pounds of work. You moved it that 40 or the 40 feet, right? Now, what if we took that same work and we did just a little bit less work? Okay. So 75 pounds, you moved it the same distance and you worked for 1 minute, but now you did 30 reps. Okay. Now we've got 4,500 pounds of work, right? So you moved to the same distance. You actually did more work with a little bit less weight.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we're able to preserve a stimulus and get a better workout, right? Now, if I went the opposite way and said, hey, now do 150 pounds, and you got less reps, now you only got 5 reps. Guess what that workout looked like? You were there for a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't do very much work.
Yep.
And this is why we want to scale, and why it's so appropriate to scale, and why doing things as prescribed aren't necessarily any better.
Yep. Absolutely. I always think about that when I'm shoveling.
Hmm.
this last weekend, I shoveled a lot of dirt and rock.
Yeah.
And I always think, like, if you have a big shovel, you've got your spade, do you try to do a full shovel full of rock every time
Yeah.
and like go as fast as you can, or do you slow it down a little bit, take a little less each time, and you can last longer? Like, who's going to shovel more?
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for. I've always thought it's got to come up in the game sometime where it's like, whatever,
Shoveling.
clean. No, like 5 minutes, max effort clean and jerks. You choose your weight on the bar, and
Mm,
you're scored on the weight that's moved,
interesting.
and see what shakes out, what weights people pick, and how fast they're able to move it for 5 minutes. That'd be pretty sweet
Yeah.
because it's coming down to this: who does the most work,
Right.
and what weight is going to allow you to do that. So that is the question when you're going into a workout. If it's a heavy day, something like uh, King Kong, nobody ever does that. You know, are you going to pick, maybe it's only like 10 reps total, so you can go heavy. What weight is going to work for that versus, something where you've got 100 reps. Okay,
Hmm.
pick an appropriate rate or an appropriate weight that allows you to do the reps in the intended time.
Right. Yeah. And actually, so like you're saying there, finding that appropriate intensity, like so that it's really working. And this is an art because you can easily scale things up or down, right? And make it a crappy workout, right? And I like to think of this. Louis Simmons always talked about creating power. And so when they would do dynamic effort days, he's like, if you have a shot put and you're trying to throw it at a window, right? Like say you're trying to break a window in a house, and you're standing on the street and you take a shot put and you try and throw it. You put a lot of force into it, but it didn't go very far, right? If you take a wiffle ball, you can chuck it and it could even hit the house and it probably isn't going to break it. But you get a baseball and you chuck it at that window, it's going through, right? It was the right amount of force and speed, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now let's take this into a workout where you're like, hey, we got deadlifts and pull-ups, and I can do them both, and maybe I can do that weight, but I wanted you to get around a minute. And now if it's super light, it could make it a very not hard workout, right? But if it's super heavy, it also might make it a not hard workout. You might only get a couple reps, and then you rested most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so now it's like, all right, how do I adjust this so that I'm getting that 10-minute stimulus of 10 minutes of work for this. And what we're doing is creating intensity, and that's what we want to find in all of our workouts, because so like the CrossFit Journal says, right? The intensity is the independent variable most commonly associated with maximizing the rate of return on favorable adaptation to exercise, right? So it's like if I'm resting all the time, right, I'm probably not working at a high intensity, and
Mm-hmm.
so we want to find how can I do this work more efficiently.
Yeah, I was just thinking about something else now. Oh, I think you could almost think about it in percentages.
Hmm.
So they say scale or program for the best, scale for the rest,
Right.
right? So if you're looking at CrossFit.com or whatever workout, and assume that it says 135 for whatever clean and jerks, it's like, okay, well, the best guys are clean and jerking, I don't know, let's say 300 pounds.
Right.
So what percentage is 135 of their max?
Right.
And now what's your max? And apply that. Like, or I know now the main site will say things like choose a weight that you can do 10 reps unbroken, or the first round unbroken, right? And so, like, you aren't competing with anyone else of
Right.
like what weight they do. You are trying to create the stimulus for yourself, for your body, to improve the way to create the improvements that are intended from this workout.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll tell you what. Like lots of times when people are well, so actually, I guess one thing to think about when we're scaling is we want to start looking at yes, amount of work, right? And lots of times we're looking at weight, like can I do this weight? And but also we have to look at the movement. Am I able to perform the movement properly? And
Hmm.
um, and then how often can I do that? Or like actually, what is my work capacity?
Right.
And when we're doing that, lots of times we can look at volume, you know, volume. So number of reps in the workout isn't always the best indicator of if I got a good workout or not. And say that you take a 21-15-9, where you're doing 21 of each movement, 15 and 9 of each movement. Um, it might be more appropriate for me to do something like 15-12-9, right? There's the workout Cindy. It's a 20-minute AMRAP of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats. Now, this should be something that you're doing about 1 round a minute, right? And now, if you look at those numbers, for some people, those might be small numbers, and you can knock those out pretty unbroken and pretty quickly. But if let's say the push-ups, are usually what get people on this workout. And so if doing 10 is going to take you 4 sets, right? Let's say 5 so I can do the math. Let's say that it takes you 5 sets, and 15 seconds rest in between each set. You're not going to get those that round a minute, right? So maybe I can do push-ups, but maybe I'm going to go 4-6-8, right? And I'm going to adjust those numbers a little bit so that I'm getting that 20 minutes of work consistently, as opposed to resting all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the same workout.
Hmm. Yeah. And also keep your water bottle away from you.
And keep your. Do you want to know how many times I stopped for a drink in a workout? Zero CrossFit workouts.
Never even crossed my mind.
It is sort of funny, like we're looking for that fast, hey, get as much work done as possible, and we get a drink right before we work out, and most CrossFit workouts are about 10 to 15 minutes long, and it's like, I promise you didn't dehydrate. And I always joke about the fact that I feel like most people don't drink very much water, right? But then they come to CrossFit and they drink about 6 gallons during class, and it's like, would you?
That's where they get the most health benefits, is
Yes,
from the amount of water
the
they
amount of
drink.
water drank. Yes,
Uh,
but
uh, yeah, yeah. I was thinking about the stimulus
yeah,
again. That like your body doesn't care who you finished before,
hmm,
or whatever, where you ranked on the board, or if you did it RX or not.
hmm,
It cares what stimulus you gave it. So if the point is to go fast and you used a heavy weight and had to keep breaking it up and did 1 rep every 20 seconds, your body only learns that. It's
right,
not learning the conditioning that was intended.
yeah,
So I think thinking in those terms. And then, um, well, yeah, essentially that. Like, instead of saying, can I do that weight? Say, like, what weight can I do for this workout in this time domain, for
yeah.
these reps?
I like that.
If you start with that side instead of looking at the weight that's written there.
Actually, we just had a workout today, and it was 2 rounds. You're gonna do a certain amount of calories on the bike, and then some hang power cleans, and then a certain amount of calories on the rower, and then hang power snatches. And actually, had somebody who work capacity isn't completely there yet. Can work in short bursts, right? Now this workout, you're looking at like 14 minutes ish, right? Of straight work, and not a ton of rest. Like maybe doing the cleans and snatches in like 2 sets or so, and moving pretty quickly on the bike and the rower. And actually, one of the things that we did was brought the calories down and the reps, and said do 5 and 5, right? And now I want you to work for 12 minutes. And there's been multiple workouts where this person has had to like just like sit down and have a rest, right? And in this workout, now was able to work, and actually even went a little bit longer because they were feeling pretty good. They did more reps than if would have tried to hit this, hit that. It was like, no,
Yeah.
I needed this little burst, and it made them continuous, even though they were breaking it up a little bit. And it worked out really well. And it was, I think that they were really happy. But it's like changing that little bit made it a fantastic workout for that person, as opposed to trying to get the numbers or volume or anything like that, or the weight, so that they got a good workout.
Yeah. Yeah, like make the work the focus over the weight, the reps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so when you think about scaling, the main idea is that we're going to scale to preserve the intended stimulus, right? And we're going to scale to address any limitations. So whether it's work capacity, right? Whether it's injury, whether it's complexity, range of motion, right? And we want to find, hey, where can I get the best range of motion? Because actually, I think that's another thing. You get to squats, and you go, well, I can do this weight. It's like, well, you just squatted 6 inches less than when you were doing your air squat. They're like, well, yeah, but I can go heavier. It's like, well, you changed the motion, right? And so what we want to do is make sure that we're getting the full range of motion, and range of motion is going to be more important than weight and or reps. It's like, hey, we need to practice this whole thing so that I can continuously do this thing better as I progress, and that's how you're really going to start increasing your strength and even just work capacity, by finding, all right, let's do this, and this is going to get me the most. Because again, actually, like if we go back to that formula, right? If I change the distance, am I doing as much work, right? I'm not moving it as far.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my biggest complaints. People always, with handstand push-ups, always want to go to mats, put more mats,
Yep.
put more mats. And if I'm trying to think of like an equal thing,
It's like bench pressing. Do you only bench press with boards on your chest
right,
and just push it like 3 inches?
right,
Guess what? When the bar gets down to your chest, you've got nothing there.
right. And
And yeah, that's what people do with handstand push-ups, big time.
and there is benefit to that, right? And I even feel like there is benefit to sometimes doing handstand push-up like that. Like work on some of that, get upside down, work on that little press out and stuff like that. But if that's your go-to, then it's like, all right, we need to change this up. And actually, I think that's another big problem with scaling, is lots of times you go, hey, when we do pull-ups, I use the orange band, and if you become the orange band person or the white band person, anybody from the gym knows about the white band. Do you know about the white band?
No.
There's a big debate on if it's white or gray. And since I bought them, they're white. But but yeah, if you're always doing the same thing, then it's probably not appropriate either, right?
Yep.
Because our goal is to progress the movement. Um, that's the point of scaling, right? So we're going to intend this, or we're going to preserve the stimulus. We're going to make sure that we have full range of motion, and we're going to make sure that we're progressing the movement, right?
Yep.
And if it always is the same, then we're missing one of those pieces.
Yeah. And I think pull-ups is a great example where, yeah, maybe you always use the band and you kip with the band, but now there's a workout with strict pull-ups. So it's lower reps but higher intensity, higher load. Okay, so now let's get rid of the band and maybe do jumping negatives, right? Because we're not doing as many reps and we're looking at what was the intended stimulus. It was something heavier, right? So yeah, changing up your scaling options based on the intended stimulus of the workout also like has to come into play so that you aren't always doing the exact same thing every time and just living with that band.
Yeah, actually, I think that pull-ups is a great like analogy with it because um, yeah, you start working on it, well, especially if you're only kipping, right, and you can't do this more basic movement,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, all right, it got the work done for the workout, or it allowed me to put a number on the board, but I need to work on the basics all the time, and that's what we're talking about even with complexity, right? And minimizing the complexity so that we can build strength in these positions, and then we start adding it on. And the the biggest benefit to kipping is to increase work capacity, right? So getting more work done in a smaller amount of time. But if I have more strength, right, now the kipping just makes it faster, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we need to um, build that first, and then move into it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's short-term and long-term strategies.
Hmm.
Like kipping gets you more work in the short term right now. Building the strength is going to give you way more work down the line.
Absolutely. I was just listening to something, and they were talking about they were using like the Beyond the Whiteboard stats, and the average um, males pull-ups from Beyond the Whiteboard, strict pull-ups, is 13. That is the
That
that is the average. Now, first of all, you have to take into account that um, this is this is a particularly fit group.
mm,
If you take most people in the world, I would say that like uh, actually most people, your normal everyday person on the street can't do a pull up,
yeah,
and the fact that that was the average. That's pretty crazy. That's
that
what
is.
that's what CrossFit does.
Yep.
But yeah. So all right. So scaling. Number one, make scaling cool again, and use it well. So don't be afraid to modify reps, weight, and then movement, whether it's for injury, whether it is to preserve the stimulus of the workout. Maybe it's to progress your skill in that movement, right? And make sure that you are preserving that stimulus, like finding what is going to allow me to do more work, not only today but in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about it that way. What's the benefit that I am supposed to get from this workout? How do I get that?
Absolutely. All right, make scaling cool again.
Get a t-shirt.
All right, Eric, I will see you next week, 11:30 for Do That But Better. and we will see you guys next time.
All right. See you later.